You probably bought a wearable pump for freedom, to move around more, to work more easily, to stop feeling tethered to a wall. But now if you're looking at the bottles and the numbers are lower and you're wondering, is my supply dropping? This video is for you. I want to help you reinterpret what wearable output actually means so you can stop second guessing every session and understand what's really happening and how to fix it. Because low output with a wearable pump does not automatically mean you have low supply, and that distinction matters. If we haven't met yet, my name is Allison Tolman. I'm a lactation consultant and a breast pump expert. I work with a lot of working moms, pumping moms. A lot of them are using wearables at work, in hospitals, courtrooms, busy offices, at home with other toddlers. And yes, we absolutely see moms successfully use wearables long term. But here's the key. They are not plug and play tools. They require a slightly different skill set. And when that skill set isn't dialed in, the numbers can look scary and then milk supply can actually start to dip. So let's talk about what's actually happening. Before we even talk about the pump, we need to talk about what those numbers do to your brain. Okay, here's the pattern that I see all the time. You pump, you get less output than expected, particularly with wearables, maybe 2 ounces instead of 4. And immediately your brain jumps to, my supply is dropping. That thought triggers stress. Then maybe you add in an extra session, or you start obsessively tracking, or you consider buying a new pump. This is what I call the output doubt spiral. All right, one lower session becomes a supply crisis in your mind, but wearable pump output does fluctuate more than traditional pump output. That's normal for the tool and common because of the challenges of use with it. And here's what I would gently explore before assuming low supply. Did you get more than one letdown? Did the pump stay aligned with the nipple the entire session? And is this a consistent pattern, or is this just a one-off session? Those questions help you shift from panic to investigation, because most of the time the milk is still there. We just need to understand what the tool did or didn't remove and why. Now let's zoom out and talk about the device itself. A wearable pump trades maximum efficiency for flexibility. That's the design. It prioritizes mobility, discretion, and lifestyle integration. But that trade-off means smaller motors, more compression from the bra, less visibility, more alignment variability, and less attention to your body during a session. And even slight shifts like this can affect milk flow. When you compare, let's say, a hospital-grade pump, tabletop pump sitting perfectly in front of you, aligned with the nipple, you're watching the patterns of milk flowing right in front of you, you're adjusting in real time, compared to a wearable pump that you've tucked inside your bra, push play, and now you're typing, walking, and doing the dishes. These are not equal equations, right? It's a different pump, it's a different expectation, different metrics for success. Expecting identical output ounce for ounce often leads to unnecessary panic. Now here's the perception shift I really want you to understand. Wearable pump output does not measure how much milk you make. Right? It measures how much that tool could remove. This goes for all pumps, but we're specifically talking about wearables in this video. Milk production and milk removal are related, but they are not the same biological process. Milk supply is about production, and pump output is about transfer. And when you switch tools and the number changes, that doesn't automatically mean that your body changed overnight. It often means that the transfer method changed. That's a skill issue, not a supply issue. And a skill issue can be refined. If output is consistently lower with a wearable, I usually explore these 4 broad areas, okay? Fit and stability, letdown management, session length and frequency, and setting compatibility to other pumps being used. Again, not in a panic way, but in a calibration way. Most moms don't actually have a supply issue when they switch to a wearable pump. They usually have a transfer learning curve, and that is very different. So let me touch on each of these 4 areas a little bit more so you kind of have an idea of what we're exploring when we're troubleshooting why output is lower with a wearable. We actually have a wearable pump course that'll be out very, very soon. If you're watching this video after it's newly released, we have a waitlist down below. If it's been a few weeks or months, the course is likely live, so I'll put a link down in the description for you because we'll cover all of these and other things way more in depth. But let's start with the first one, fit and stability. Bra fit is really, really, really important with wearable pumps. And I often see moms, using their nursing bra or doing all kinds of creative pumping hacks and things like that. But if your bra does not fit well, you need it to do several things, or the actual pump that you have doesn't matter at all. You could have the nicest pump on the market. If your bra fit is way off, the pump's going to be slipping around and or too tight at the breast. Okay, so we need to make sure that that bottom band fits really, really well to help keep that pump in place. We don't want it too tight at the breast, otherwise you're compressing milk ducts and that makes milk flow harder. Just from an anatomy standpoint, right? You're compressing the parts where the milk needs to come out. If it's too loose, then it starts slipping around a little bit. And if it's not suctioning on exactly the right part of the breast, milk isn't gonna come out. And that's where the stability piece comes into play here. Flange fit in this area is also really important. And it's kind of a catch-22 because the better fitting flange you have often means that you have a smaller hole to shoot for, right? You gotta line up your nipple in a smaller area and then make sure that it doesn't slip around. Flange sizing on traditional pumps versus wearable pumps is often a little bit different. It kind of just depends on the breast and the person. And, breast size and shape tends to affect wearables a lot more than a traditional pump. We actually don't really look at the overall breast size and shape when we're using a traditional flange. A little bit in kind of the shape of the shield on how it meets the breast. But other than that, it doesn't really matter. It becomes way more important with wearables. And again, that bra needs to hold the wearable in place correctly, or it's not going to be suctioning the right part. The nipple's not going to be moving how it needs to, and milk flow is going to slow. The next area is letdown management. And so many things come back to letdowns. They are hugely important in pumping and very intentional. When you're feeding a baby at the breast, they're kind of managing letdowns for you. And it's also a lot easier just because the hormones are working better. When you're pumping, whether a traditional pump or a wearable pump, this becomes a much more intentional process. If you do not have more than one letdown in a pumping session, I can almost guarantee you're leaving milk behind. In fact, they've done studies on this. Up to 50 to 70% of the milk available is released during that first letdown. So that is where you get a large quantity of milk. But if you don't have a second or third or fourth letdown even, you're leaving behind 30 to 50% of your milk. Okay, this is where milk supplies start to plummet because your body thinks you don't need that much. The way we tend to use wearables is also interesting here because they're designed to let you be mobile and multitasking and not really thinking about it. Letdowns, again, are very intentional no matter what kind of pump you're using. Again, baby at the breast just does it. But with a pump, we're triggering those. So I see moms missing letdowns often. You also can't see. That's a tricky part and makes a really big difference in your output. Third area we explore is session length or frequency. And sometimes moms do end up pumping a little bit longer with a wearable pump just to kind of help compensate for that lack of efficiency. In fact, I remember one mom in particular, she was a resident at a hospital. She worked in like ER, med surg, or like something that was very, very busy. She was working 60 to 70 hour weeks. She had a very short maternity leave and she had to use a wearable pump, right? Because as a resident, you're just told what to do and where to be. She often would pump a little bit longer than a normal session just to kind of help make sure she could get those multiple letdowns while she was also multitasking. It wasn't a perfect system, but it did kind of accommodate enough for her based on the other parts of her plan that were working. That sometimes messes with your frequency too. If you're doing a 45-minute pumping session, it's like, okay, well then when do I move the next one to? It just gets kind of funny. So adjusting the length and or frequency when you're using wearable pumps can be something really to look at. Sometimes we pump shorter pumps, but more often, again, wearable pumps, the way they're designed to be used, can lead to some changes there. And then fourth, setting compatibility with other pumps being used. And this kind of goes back to letdowns a little bit here because the letdown is a trained reflex. So if you have trained your letdown to happen with a more traditional pump, and this is common, moms that have wearables usually have another pump, which I love. It is a lot easier to learn pumping on a more traditional style flange and pump because it's just, you can see so much more anatomy and gravity is on your side. And really learning how your body responds to a breast pump is a lot easier there. Then you can kind of transfer some of those skills over to wearables in addition to learning the skills that are necessary for wearable pumps to work well too. But the key here is that if you are switching between pumps that are wildly different and not really like in suction because suction is going to suck some milk out, right? But in cycle speed, suction pattern, and just the general programming of the pump, if these are really different, your body can get confused. And it's like, these are new sensations on top of all the challenges that come with wearables. Now we're like not even going at the same speeds or patterns that we're used to for letdowns, and it can be really tricky. So finding a wearable pump that is similar to your other pump is a great place to start. Sometimes we even match up settings too. I think there's actually a comparison tool in our breast pump library where you can put in the pumps you have and find the exact same settings, which is kind of fun. But really understanding how the tool works and the limitations and how it compares to other things, and then how all of that works with your specific body is important. And this is exactly the kind of detective style thinking that we use in all of the courses that we offer, particularly though the Pumping Efficiently course. This is not where we just talk about general pumping setup, how to put your pump together and basic milk supply, right? We talk about how your pump and your body interact as a system and help you become your own pumping expert. Because once you understand transfer, once you understand the letdowns, alignment, tool differences, and how they all apply to you, you can stop reacting emotionally to every number. You can start interpreting them and using them as data points to figure out, okay, where do I adjust? If that's the kind of clarity you want and you want to become your own pumping expert, that's what we work through step by step inside of our Pumping Efficiently course. The link's in the description if you're ready for that level of understanding. Also, we're going to be having that wearable course specifically that will be paired with that. If you're using a wearable, that's going to be a hugely valuable resource for you. You're not broken. You don't need a new pump. Your body didn't suddenly fail because your wearable pump collects less milk. You are working with a tool that prioritizes freedom, and freedom sometimes requires calibration. Low output does not automatically equal low supply. Just want to hammer that home. It often just means it's a different tool, it's a different technique, it's a different type of transfer. And once you understand that, the panic can settle. You don't have to freak out every time we're having low output sessions, or even if you're having them consistently. You can start making decisions from clarity instead of fear. All right, I'm going to put another video here on wearable pumps that you might like. I know this is a tricky topic to understand and it's complex. There's a lot that goes into it. Figuring out how your unique body responds is really, really key. And all of that help is inside of our course if you want more in-depth information. All right, good luck. Happy pumping.